The Louisville Cardinals could have the best backcourt in college basketball next season.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this edition of the Locked On, the Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to turbotax.com today and get matched with your expert. Pat Kelsey and company have completely overhauled Louisville's backcourt, posing the question, could this be the best backcourt in college basketball next season? I think so. I'll explain why coming up shortly. News surfaced over the weekend that Louisville and St. John's are currently working on a home-and-home series beginning next season. I love this for the Cardinals. More on that coming up in the second segment, and then we will discuss a new football commitment. Gavin Waddell, wide receiver from North Carolina, has made his commitment to Jeff Brohm's program. We'll break down what he brings to the team and much more on the show today. Recording this on Sunday because with how quickly news comes in the transfer portal and stuff, and with spring football game coming up at the end of this upcoming week, I wanted to get this episode out on Sunday because it was originally going to come out on Friday, but nonetheless, giving ourselves an opportunity to wait for some other significant news. I'm not really insinuating that anything in particular is coming, but just giving us some flexibility in terms of scheduling. So thank you all for tuning into this episode of the show. Pat Kelsey has not only talked the talk, but he has walked the walk in terms of bringing in some of the top players in the transfer portal, specifically in the backcourt. Over the past week, Louisville has brought in not one, not two, but 3 top 15 transfers to the backcourt. And you combine those 3 with Mikel Brown Jr., the number 1 point guard in the 2025 class, and Kobe Rogers, a player who I think is going to be able to be a valuable depth piece off the bench. And we're talking about an incredible group on paper that if they mesh, I believe that this backcourt could be the best in college basketball next season. You're seeing some national media members start to entertain that possibility. And of course, some rivaling fans couldn't be any louder with their disagreements. And let's look at some of those rebuttals as to why this wouldn't happen. For starters, there's going to be better backcourts across the country. Well, you look at the top teams. Now, of course, being able to recruit and develop talent on a year-in, year-out basis is key, but a lot of these top backcourts are losing players. And then you bring in a Louisville team with the number 1 point guard in the 2025 class, 3 high-profile transfers, and a solid rotational guard. And, I mean, on paper, it's hard to make a ton of arguments against this Louisville backcourt. And there's going to be some really good backcourts in the country, don't get me wrong. My favorite is, well, there's only one basketball to go around. Sure, of course, that is correct. I mean, yes, there is only indeed one basketball on the court. There are only so many shots technically that can be taken. But number one, don't forget that this Pat Kelsey offense is designed for frequent substitutions. This year, we didn't really see that all that much because of the injuries that the team sustained. In an ideal season, you're going to see a ton of substituting. And don't you think that these players that Louisville recruited, like these 3 guards, don't you think that they knew that, hey, look, here's a possibility. We're going to try to bring all three of you in, along with Mikel, along with Kobe Rogers, and here's how it's going to work. And it wasn't like Louisville just completely and significantly overpaid for all of these guys. Tennessee and Louisville had pretty similar NIL packages from the rumors out there. Louisville convinced Isaac McKneely with a crowded backcourt to come to Louisville. Of course, one of these guys isn't going to start. Whatever Pat Kelsey and company told them, they're okay with, which is likely that they're still likely all going to play at least 25 minutes a game. You can make it work because you're going to play 3 guards on the court. So the only one ball syndrome and narrative that's going out there. It's funny because we act like other top teams in the country, like the teams that we're seeing right now in the NCAA tournament, don't have crowded backcourts that use a ton of depth. I mean, this isn't the first time that a coach has had to figure out how to craft the rotation. Another rebuttal is, well, Mikel Brown Jr. is actually not the number 1 point guard. He's the number 2 point guard because Darius Acuff is number 1. And according to ESPN and 24/7 Sports, he is number 1. But on 3 and Rivals, it's Mikel. So I go with the 24/7 Sports composite, which averages them all together, and Mikel is number 1. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Both are hoopers. Both are going to be really good next year. We're really arguing, actually, Mikel's the number 2 ranked point guard. So how good is he actually going to be? Well, look at what he's done. And no freshman is ever a guaranteed star, but you like Louisville's chances. It's crazy to me because how much criticism Louisville's getting, it's not like they're the only team with an NIL budget that high. A lot of other teams have pretty significant budgets. And a lot of these other fan bases would trade places in a split second, which I think is kind of funny. It's copium is what it is. It's coping. But don't get me wrong, the top portal classes on paper don't always work out. So I understand those that say, yeah, well, it looks good on paper, but is it actually going to mesh? And that is a very good point. That's where we're getting at here. And I say that they could be the best backcourt in college basketball, and that is contingent on this rotation meshing. Pat Kelsey is earning his salary by being able to craft this rotation. That's why coaches make the big bucks. You have to make these decisions and get it to where they're all buying into it. And there's going to be a level of sacrifice. That's what happens with top teams. We've seen it throughout the history of college basketball. Like, this is not a new phenomenon. A couple things that lead me to believe that it is going to work and why Louisville's backcourt is going to be so potent is, number one, offensively, you're talking about 4. I'm going to say 4 because we're going to put Kobe Rogers to the side for a second. No disrespect. I think he's going to be a rotational guard that's going to be able to play a key role off the bench, helping with foul trouble or, just being a backup point guard. But, Mikel has incredible court vision, really good 3-point shooting. All 3 of the transfers they brought in were good 3-point shooters, almost elite 3-point shooters, possibly elite 3-point shooters on pretty substantial volume. So you have guys that can fill it up from deep. You have a point guard that is the best passer in the freshman class. Gives me like low-key Trae Young vibes with his vision on the court. I think he's a better defender than advertised, but that's a conversation for a different day. This is a backcourt that is loaded with scores, with shooters, guys that can put the ball on the floor and get to the basket when they need to. When you force defenses to close out on shooters, you're going to be able to move the ball around. Another reason why I think that this is going to work is that the 3 transfers that you brought in have an assist rate of double digits. Like, the numbers might not be there from a box score perspective and averages, but I think that they're all 3 willing passers and capable passers, something that was a trend last offseason. That is a trend this offseason. And then you combine those three with a veteran in Kobe Rogers who knows Pat Kelsey's system. I think he's going to be able to fill his role pretty nicely. And Mikel Brown Jr., who I am extremely bullish on. I think he is going to be a top 10 draft pick. I think he is as good as advertised. Now, there is a reality out there where not every player you bring in hits. Not every transfer succeeds the way they should. And that's okay. It happens. Happens more often than not. Right now, you got 5 really good guard options with potentially Corey Calker, a JUCO guy, maybe being a redshirt option or an end-of-bench type option. If one guy doesn't succeed, well, you've got 3 other really good backcourt options that you can throw out there and play the majority of the game. I like that Isaac McKneely and Ryan Conwell can both play off ball. That's something that is pretty valuable. They all don't have to have the ball in their hands to be productive. I would imagine that Adrian Wooley from Kennesaw State, I think he's going to be like that super 6-man, playing that Tahad Pettiford role coming off the bench and just being that spark of energy. I think that Mikel is your starting one. I think that Wooley is going to come in at least to start the season and be sort of that backup point guard, a guy that can be that secondary ball handler. But McKneely and Conwell both can handle the basketball. They can initiate offense. I think that they are better served as off-ball 2 guards. Really good, elite catch-and-shoot players, good in spot-up, coming off of screens. That's going to be great. And I think that you're going to have a front court, depending on who that floor is going to be, whether it's Case and Pryor or maybe Nate Ament, whoever it is. You've got some good big men that are effective passers, which I think is going to be really helpful to unlocking this backcourt. So you've got the shooting, you've got the penetration into the lane, you've got the passing, you've got the depth, you've got the talent. Defense is one of those, I think it's a wait and see. I think Mikel Brown Jr. is better than advertised as a defender. I think that Ryan Conwell can be a better defender than perceived. This is going to be an offense that utilizes it's going to be a team that utilizes offense as their main strength. They play at a fast pace. So even though they might be good defensively, the numbers might not show it because of the chances that the opposing teams get. So it's not going to be the most elite backcourt. That's why you have to sort of nail the front court additions, bring in those defensive specialists that can sort of compensate for it. But I don't think it's going to be a team that is just going to be like traffic cones where you're just going to be able to score on them at will. I think Mikel Brown is going to be a better defender than people think. I think Ryan Conwell is going to be a better defender. And if Adrian Wooley and Isaac McKneely can be serviceable on that end of the floor, I mean, this backcourt has all the makings of the best backcourt in the country. Of course, everything has to mesh on the court. So key term, on paper, you just have to see things be able to materialize on the court. Speaking of on the court, Louisville and St. John's are finalizing or working to finalize a home-and-home series beginning next season. I love this. I love this a ton. It is the right decision, and I'll explain why when we come back on this Sunday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. And then you waited, wondered, and worried some more. Well, now Taxes is matching with the TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. You get an expert who will find you every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guarantee. No waiting, wondering, or worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Card Nation, want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day and tuning in on this wild roller coaster that is the transfer portal offseason. Just a reminder, the show is free and available 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Tomorrow we will have a mailbag episode, so be sure to drop some questions in the comments below. We'll answer those. It actually might be Tuesday morning at midnight, just depending on if we get any news, but there will be one rather quickly turning around from this. But some news over the weekend. John Fanta reporting that Louisville and St. John's are working to finalize a home-and-home series beginning next season. These are words coming from the man himself, Rick Pitino. The two teams would play up in the Big Apple at Madison Square Garden next season, early on in the season, and then return the favor by playing in the KFC Yum Center in the 2026-27 campaign. A couple reasons why I like this potential pairing for the Louisville Cardinals. Number one, just from a nostalgia standpoint, Louisville, there's been times where you think that, hey, Louisville might play Rick Pitino, but they haven't yet. They haven't played a Pitino team at all since he got fired back in 2017, whether he was coaching at Iona or coaching at St. John's. The two parties have not met. So I think from a storyline perspective, this would just be sort of awesome to see. There's the nostalgia. Some people still love Pitino. Some people can't stand him. I love Pitino. I appreciate everything he did here. I would love to. First of all, I would really entertain going up to Madison Square Garden. That would be an awesome thing to be able to watch a game in the Mecca, watching Louisville play St. John's. A ton of nostalgia, some old Big East vibes, long-lost friend vibes playing Pitino, so that would be awesome. I think the more important thing here, excuse me, is beefing up the out-of-conference schedule and giving yourself another game where you can get a potential big-time win for your resume. Because, let's face it, the ACC hurt Louisville this year. Now, they got significantly underseeded. They probably should have been on that 5-6 line like Clemson, but it was the perception. And the perception of a certain team does matters a ton. And you definitely need to get those marquee victories. So I like that Louisville is still scheduling top competition. Like, they're going to play Kentucky, of course, and that game seems like it's going to be in November this year, which is going to be an interesting dynamic. You're going to Knoxville to play Tennessee. I believe you're going to play Indiana up in Indianapolis, is what it seemed like the rumors are out there. I don't know who else outside of that. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of teams. I know that Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana. Will there be another challenge out there that they'll play? I mean, maybe potentially. Playing St. John's would be big time because St. John's is going to be a good team. I mean, you have one of the best coaches of all time. You have a team that's doing really well in the portal. Indiana, who knows? Tennessee probably will reload and be a good team. Kentucky's probably going to be a good team. So you're going to get the opportunities. But something that hurt the Cardinals, maybe more than it should last year, was the lack of quality wins. ACC is making some moves. I'm just not so sure how much better they're going to be. I think that they're going to improve. Clemson's going to get worse. Duke won't be as good as they were this year, but I think you have some other teams like NC State's going to be better. I think North Carolina could potentially be better. Miami could be better. I mean, it's kind of hard not to be better, honestly. But Jai Lucas is doing a great job of recruiting down there in the portal. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to sort of predict how good the conference is going to be. So you need to go ahead and give yourself some opportunities. And I know that this is a pretty engaging discussion because there are some that think, you know what, no, just go ahead and get the wins. Look at what Louisville did in conference play. This is my argument. The ACC might not be as bad as they were this year, but they're not going to significantly be improved. They're not going to improve that much. They may improve, but it's not going to be like, oh my goodness, the ACC is one of the best conferences in basketball this year. I don't think that that's going to happen. We just saw a Louisville team lose to Duke in conference play. This is early on in December. And then they lost to Georgia Tech. And then they lost to Duke again in the ACC championship game. They lost 2 regular season games in the ACC. They went on 2 long winning streaks. They beat Clemson twice. They handled business. They did everything that they could, realistically. It was good enough for an 8 seed because of the lack of a signature victory. Their best victory was Clemson. They had some injuries last year, of course. Case and Pryor going down, Corin Johnson, Bubakar Traore. They struggled against Tennessee, against Ole Miss, against Kentucky, against Oklahoma, against Duke. You had the opportunities to get those big-time victories in non-conference play, but you just couldn't get them. You need to schedule a realistically challenging out-of-conference because the perception of your team matters. Because, yeah, I mean, of course, if you end up losing all those games again, of course you're having to make a run in ACC play. I get that. But if you have a backcourt as good as we think it is, and if you have a front court that can still be pretty solid, why would you not schedule the out-of-conference games pretty tough? Because if you get those out-of-conference victories, look, Clemson got the win over Kentucky and Duke. That might be all that separates you from a couple of spots on the lines in the tournament. So I like this from a St. John's is going to be good. You've got an opportunity to get that signature victory. And if you lose, I don't think it's going to hurt you as much as long as you get some signature victories at some point next season. That's all that I'm saying. I think that this would be a really good move for Louisville. We'll put the basketball talk to the side for the moment. Jeff Brohm has picked up another commitment in the 2026 class, another pass catcher. We'll discuss what Gavin Waddell brings to the Cardinals team when we come back on this Sunday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. If you ever check your bank account and wonder where all your money went, like I do, whether it's dining out, online shopping, entertainment, you name it, Monarch Money needs to have a place in your life. It's a personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Managing your money is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. Take the control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Jeff Brohm follows up a strong month of March in terms of football commitments with an early April commitment, getting a pledge from 3-star wide receiver Gavin Waddell. Waddell is from Rolesville, North Carolina, which, for those that don't know, Rolesville is a suburb of Raleigh, I believe. He is a 3-star ranking, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, as the 873rd best player in the class, the 137th best wide receiver, and the 39th best player in the state of North Carolina. His commitment brings the total up to 13, and he becomes the third wide receiver committed in the class, along with Marlon Harbin from St. X and 4-star Peyton Cook from Akron, Ohio. This is a pretty interesting commitment. 6'1", 175 pounds. Seems like a late bloomer in the class. Has posted back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons for Rolesville High School. Holds an offer or lists an offer from Miami and Maryland. But outside of that, I think that those are the only Power 5 schools to make a verbal offer. Outside of that, I mean, you're looking at Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, James Madison, Old Dominion, Troy, UConn. seems like Duke is showing interest, but hasn't made an offer at the moment. He will make an official visit to the Cardinals program in late June on the 20th. He unofficially visited Duke at the end of March. Got the offer from Louisville in January, picked up an offer from Maryland in January as well. So it seems like his stock is continuing to rise. But I want to read to you something that my friend Grant Mulligan, G Money, one of the regulars on the show when it's football season, does a great job of breaking down recruiting and a great job of scouting, former Louisville recruiting assistant. He said this was his evaluation of Gavin Waddell. And there's something in here that I resonated with because it was in my notes when I looked at. Not sure about the level of competition, but a ton to like on Waddell's tape. Super fluid athlete, especially in the lower half. Quick feet with a lot of shake to his game after the catch. Separates with ease at all three levels. Natural hands catcher with good skills at the catch point. Good at finding soft spots in coverage. Doesn't seem overly explosive or have tremendous athletic traits. Size is just average, but he is quicker than he is fast and projects as a slot guy. Chain mover. I like the tape. Get him in a college weight room and watch him excel. I think he has real receiver skills. A couple points here that I had also written down before Grant sent me this message. I think that the separation in all parts of the field is something that catches my eye pretty quickly. Another thing is that he understands finding spots in the coverage. Some player that I will compare him to in terms of who he reminded me of. Now, I'm not comparing these two players apples to apples. The way that he found spots in the coverage, I was like, kind of reminds me of a little bit of Keenan Allen. I mean, I'm a Chargers fan, and Grant is as well. So I'm interested to see what he would think of that. But the way that he's able to just understand coverage, find the soft spots, real Keenan Allen-esque. I also think Xavier Restrepo is another player that comes to mind, not overly fast, but man, can he create some separation. I think that when it comes to Gavin Waddell, this could be a diamond in the rough type prospect, probably a prospect that takes a couple years to see the field, a guy that you get into the weight room at 6'1", 175 pounds, look to add a little bit more muscle, allow him to learn the playbook for a season, and maybe by year 2, you're talking about a guy that could play in the slot that could be a really huge asset to the Cardinals recruiting. It's one side. Like, I won't really ever question Jeff Brohm's recruiting on the offensive end. Like, he is really good at recruiting quarterbacks, really good at recruiting running backs. I mean, offensive line has been really good in his 2 seasons. Tight end play is something that you kind of, wait and see approach. Wide receiver is a spot that I'm not really going to worry about who Jeff Brohm brings in to play in this very player-friendly offensive scheme. So I like this commitment for the Cardinals. I'm interested to see if he's going to rise up the rankings anymore and who is going to try to jump in this recruitment in terms of offering and stuff like that. So Gavin Waddell is the 13th member of the current 6th best class in the country. I imagine that Louisville probably takes less than 10 commits for the remainder of this class. You know that they're going to take some smaller high school classes. We'll see how much more that number will grow as we head into the summer and the football season in the fall. But that's going to wrap up the Sunday edition of the show. We'll see you back here very soon. Everyone, have a great day. Have a great start to your week. Go Cards.